was nice.
Contemplated.
Never mind. I was going to talk about your education, but never mind. You ruined it. All right, let's get started.
Let's
get started.
It
is.
Yeah.
So we started. Hold it. Is this the episode? Is this the 25th episode? We have reached 25 episodes. Woo! We are a quarter of 100 episodes done.
Would you look at that?
I know. It's kind of exciting because I was like, hope we get to 12. Hope we get to 20. What in the first episode, I think I said 20. Maybe I said 25. Anyways.
Well, hey, we made it.
We made it to 25.
We're there, man.
Episodes. We have
Time to
arrived.
fold up shop and
25 episodes, and we're just now deciding to change the background.
Yeah.
We're like, we're substantial now. We can put some work into there. Yeah. So
I like it. I like it. The tree is gone.
The tree is gone.
If you have not noticed yet, the
And
tree is
we're
gone.
going to be putting some other stuff back there to make it a little bit more better. More better.
A little bit more better.
A little bit more better.
We'll work on making it a little bit more better as time goes on as well.
Making it gooder.
Making it gooder. Making
Hopefully
it
we
gooder.
start talking gooder as well.
Were we? He just insulted my education.
I was expecting that to come up. I was. So last week we started the 7 deadly sins, and we're going to continue this week and for the next couple, at least 2 more weeks, I think.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about today, guys?
Today we're talking about sloth and wrath. Now, I think the important thing, and we will probably say this with every single podcast episode, we agree with the fact that these things are sins, but we don't agree with the premise that they are the 7 deadly sins.
Correct.
All sin is deadly. Every sin is deadly. Now, all are forgivable except for one, and we've already talked about that in another episode, so go watch the other
Go
episode.
look at that one. That was a good one.
Yeah, we all agree with the premise that these are sins, but they aren't the 7 deadly sins. There's no distinction. Sin is sin.
And last week we discussed where they came from, which was just a religious guy, a monk, who was like, I want to do better. I feel like we should not do these things so we can get closer to God. And then over time, it just became the most important things. And even when I was doing research on this, like the Catholic Church specifically really does hammer the fact that these are the worst of the sins, like even in their teachings and stuff. And it was interesting to hear how they explained and described and went about discussing them, because it is above all other things, these 7 are so bad. And
I was thinking about this too, and I may have said this in the lost
episode.
In the lost episode.
That will be 101. That'll be episode 101.
We lost one.
The lost episode.
Shoot. I may have said this in the last episode, but if you think about it, the 7 deadly sins, they can be a root for a lot of other sins. And so I think that could be one particular reason where like a person could look at them and be like, oh, they are, 7 deadly sins. Well, it's just the root of multiple other actions. It's like a lifestyle or a characteristic or a place where your heart is at that leads you to do other things, which leads you to other sins. But yeah.
It's like a gateway sin.
Gateway sin.
Just opens the door for all the other ones.
Slippery slope.
Gateway sin.
You start with the slothfulness,
You
and
see?
next thing you know, you're a glutton.
You see, it's not a pyramid scheme. You just start with sloth, and then it goes down to 2 more sins, and then you go down to 2 more sins. Oh my goodness.
It's more like a triangle than a pyramid.
Gateway
Should we
sin.
start with wrath? Like, first of all, why is it so bad? Why is wrath bad?
You want to start with wrath first?
Yeah.
Instead of I will say that these are the 2, out of all of them, I think these are the 2 that I'm most excited to talk about. Maybe envy and pride a little bit, but these 2 I think are the most interesting, at least in my brain. Some of them are kind of like, well, yeah, we know that's wrong. Shame on you for doing it. But then some others are a little bit more deeper than just the surface of what you think, right? So like we talked last week about lust. Yes, lust is bad. Shame on you. There's not a whole lot you can go into it. It is what it is. It's very self-explanatory. Whereas sloth and wrath are a little bit different, and they can encompass a lot more than just what you think, right?
Right.
So anyway, so we can start with wrath.
Yeah. I guess that's my question, because, in the Bible it talks about God's wrath and everything. So why would wrath, like, what makes it so deadly, I guess.
So
I was gonna bring that up. Thank you for doing that.
Well, I'm sorry. I ruined it for you.
You
No,
stole
I
my
mean,
line.
no. Like, I'm glad we're talking about it first. Is what I want to say.
as far as God's wrath compared to,
Yeah. Like, why
So
is
it's
it
a
bad if
human
God
wrath?
has it?
Because like
do you got an answer for that, Jeremiah?
So, honestly, yeah, actually. So, if you look in the book
Sweet.
book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 19, it says, "Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, 'Vengeance is mine; I will repay it,' says the Lord."
I have that one on my stuff too.
All right, give me some.
Everybody's just on the same page.
Wrath,
Let's
wrath
see
is
it.
God's job. That is His job. He is ruler. He is judge. He is jury. It's not our responsibility to repay somebody for a wrong. A wrong and a wrong don't make a right. God is the one who implements that.
sometimes it's a gray area.
No,
I mean, if you turn left on
if
accident,
you multiply a negative by a negative, you get a positive.
Cancels out. Cancels out.
that's math. Not justification for our souls.
So is it talking about wrath like as because when you look up the originals, like it's just talking about the original words, it's talking about like anger.
Extreme anger. And I think that's
Extreme
where we
anger.
have to differentiate what wrath actually entails as
Right.
opposed to just I'm angry today.
Yeah, 'cause
Right.
I get angry like every 30 minutes. So I think
30 minutes.
I was thinking
unhealthy.
15. What are you talking about?
we're gonna die young.
True story. It's while my hair's falling out and turning gray and my knee hurts and I'm just aging faster than I should because I'm angry all the time. No.
Sound like
I'm
the
kidding. I'm really not angry all the time. I
We're like
guess I
Larry David.
okay. Anyways, he's like, who are these people I'm with? So wrath is not just I'm angry, right? Anger is a normal emotion. It's actually healthy if directed the correct way to express the fact that you're frustrated, you're angry. Wrath is to an entirely different level, where now you're not just angry, you're malicious. You are everything in your mind at this particular point is directed toward hurting someone in a way that is extreme.
Like you're just letting it completely control you.
Yes. So, and I think we kind of talked about that last week, where each of these, the reason why they're so dangerous is because each of them can take a hold of you, and you can't get away from it once you give in, right? So last week we talked about lust. Once you give in to lust and you start down that path, it's a whole lot harder to get away from lust because now your mind is just constantly looking at things in a way that it shouldn't be looked at. And once you start that, it's difficult to break. This is not just anger, it's that extreme anger. And now once you give yourself over to that, there's something that inside of us as humans, I think is justifying and it just makes us feel good because now we're just, there's something as stressful as it is when you're just angry and you're constantly focused on hurting someone, somewhere it brings, you feel good about it. Right? You're playing over the things that you want to say or the things that you want to do or how frustrated you are. And you begin to just kind of like pump yourself up in that anger to where that anger begins to grow and begins to grow and begins to grow until finally you do something stupid. And it's hard once you get into that mindset to break it because then even if, okay, I'm not going to have wrath, I'm not going to have it, but then I bring up a name or a person or a situation and immediately I'm back into that same kind of direction of focus. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so it's, each of these specifically can take us over, and then we can't get away from them. And this one is probably one of the most dangerous for other people. A lot of them have to do with their own self, but this one can not just cause us to be having problems, but we can begin to do harm to others. And it doesn't necessarily mean physical, although I think more often than not, that's where it's going to end up. But it could be mental, emotional, financial, whatever.
I like that you said a minute ago that the wrath leads us into doing something stupid. When you finally get to the point where you're willing to take action, again, whether it be to hurt somebody physically, financially, emotionally, whatever, it leads you to do something stupid. And I'm going to sound older than I am when I say this, but this is one of the very negative things about social media is that when it leads you to do something stupid person to person, there are a lot of negative consequences to that. You might get a black eye. You might get your tooth knocked out, a broken nose. You might lose your job. You might, all this negative thing. You might lose a friendship when you say something stupid like that. But with the social media, it removes that negative reinforcement that you would have in a face-to-face conversation. So what's really scary is that you have these people, and they had a movie that they made us watch in middle school. I forget what it was called. They had a movie where like this girl went to high school, and I think it ended up being like her best friend that made some fake account on a social media account and like started saying all this horrible stuff about her. Horrible stuff. But the account was anonymous. So they couldn't figure out who it was until it was almost too late, and the girl almost ended up taking her life. But the problem is with social media, we move more and more towards that. We take away the negative repercussions of these things, and people are just, oh, there's no negative repercussion. I can do whatever I want. But again, it's the wrath inside of somebody that caused them to go do that stupid thing. And it's, man, I sound so much older than what I am. But social media is just, it's the devil.
Social media is the devil. The devil.
I'm not saying I sound wise, because there are a lot of great things about social media. I'm not saying I sound wise, but I'm just...
No, it's just horrible.
Yeah. Well, really, though, social media has been the downfall of society.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be the first to
gave
say
a
it.
whole bunch of people a voice that don't need a voice.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be speaking.
I mean, if it was used for the purpose of like, I'm going to share pictures to people that I love that don't get to see it, and you know, whatever, and rainbows and unicorns, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's just a platform for people to air stuff they shouldn't be airing. And
You know how many crimes you see? Like just people film themselves on Twitter committing crimes and just
it's just
uploading it.
it's
I think you hit it on the head earlier, though. It's a whole generation of people on there that have never been like punched in the face.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't know repercussions.
They don't know what it's like to just don't say.
And then you
stupid
see
things.
them when they get punched in the face. It's like their world just gets rocked.
So
Yeah.
Are you saying that everybody needs to be punched in the face at least one time in their life?
I think so. Yes.
I can get behind
I
that.
think we would live in a
Oh,
better
have you been punched in the
society.
face?
I don't think I've been punched in the face, but I've definitely been knocked in the face on accident by you.
Like you just throws you under the bus.
Where did that go? He just
No,
kind
no,
of
no,
by
look,
you. He just throws that in.
DHS.
Look. It's a
Now,
very,
where
it's
did
a
he hit
very,
you
it's a very
exactly?
specific story. It's a very specific story. Okay, he was playing bowling on the Wii, and I was a little child.
And he was losing.
And I walked behind. It's my fault. I walked behind him while he was swinging the bowling ball. No.
He coached him real good.
And that's what happened. So he didn't do anything wrong. I promise.
I don't know that this has anything to do with wrath.
No.
But I
But he
understand
brought it
what you're
up.
saying.
He brought it up.
Oh my goodness. I actually have a very real story about this. I was on the bus one time when we were I was in 5th grade, and you know how you've got like the two really long rows of seating that go all the way back in the bus. Where I was in like the back 3 or 4 rows, something like that. And there was a kid sitting across the aisle over here. People on Spotify aren't gonna be able to see this. There was a kid sitting across the aisle from me, and the kids behind me were saying all this terrible stuff about him. And I heard it. I should have said something, but I was not particularly fond of the kid that they were making fun of, so I didn't say anything.
So he joined in a little.
No, I didn't say anything. I kept my mouth shut, but I should have said something to the people behind me. Bottom line is I should have said something to people behind me. So the kid that's sitting across from me, he thinks that I'm participating in that conversation, because people behind me, they were my friends. He thinks that I'm participating in that conversation with them. And he gets up, comes across the aisle, and slaps me across the face. In 5th grade, I'm like, okay, I get preface with this. I was the most innocent child you could probably
He says
ever
was.
see.
Yeah.
He says was like he's
Until
not
that
now.
slap.
You know?
That was his villain origin story.
He just slow motion. Never again.
So this kid slaps me across the face, and literally instantly, I'm like, it's like I'd never gotten hit in the face before by anybody other than like my siblings, right? Mm-hmm. And it literally like shook my entire worldview. I'm like, people are mean. So this kid slaps me
People are
across
mean.
the face.
You were like, people are mean. And in my mind, I'm picturing you two like going at him like a spider monkey, just like jumping out of. Is that what happened?
Sort of,
So
yeah.
you didn't realize people were mean when the people behind you were talking about the kid. You realized
harmless fun.
after the kid slapped you.
So anyway, Hayden, the kid
This
slaps me in the
episode
face.
is just all over the place.
The kid slaps me in
fun.
the face because he thought that I was participating. Granted, I wasn't, but he thought I was participating. So he in his mind, I'm the smallest kid of all my friend group by far. So he's like, I'm gonna get revenge on somebody. That was the intention. He wanted to hurt me, otherwise he wouldn't have slapped me in the face. Now, the repercussion that came with that, it was really funny actually. I waited until we hit the next bus stop so I can move without being caught. And so I hopped over in the aisle and I just started wailing into the kid's stomach. It was, yeah.
That is funny.
Do your parents know? Do your parents know the story, or this is like a reveal?
They do
moment?
now.
This
They
is a
do
reveal
now.
moment.
I told my dad. I'm not going to tell you what he responded.
No,
with.
your dad was like, "Good job, kid. He hit you in the face."
So did you put your weight behind it?
That's what my dad would have told me. My dad would have been like, "I've been disappointed if you hadn't done that."
No, we can finish the rest of the story after the
We
podcast.
can
if the
speculate all we
episode's
want.
over. You guys comment what you think happened when I told my dad what happened.
That's the good kind of bullying, though. The old-fashioned bullying, you know.
There was no
Bully,
bullying.
bully.
It was
Hold it,
I'm talking
hold it,
about the
hold it,
kid
hold it,
behind
hold it,
you
hold it,
that
hold
was
it.
getting
We need to back
picked
up a little
on.
bit.
You said good bullying.
Bullying is never good. Bullying.
Debatable. Okay.
I'm just gonna go out on a limb here.
Let's care.
The official stance of this podcast is that bullying is bad, David. It's bad.
Can I hypothetically?
Bullying is still bad,
You see
David.
this? These nerds were bullied. They retreated to their garages and they developed these.
He's holding up a
rich.
phone. He's holding up a phone.
Without wedgies, we wouldn't have these. I'm just saying. And you know it's true.
Without wedgies, technology would not be
Wedgies built
where
these
it's
iPhones.
at today.
I'll die on that hill.
How can you argue with it? How can I? What?
But
He
yes,
took a
bullying
drink
is
of
bad.
water before that story.
I can't even go on.
What the worst part about it is you can't argue. He's right.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, okay. I drank my water.
Jeremiah
Oh,
took
you're
a
trying
drink
not
of
to
water
choke.
before the story
I couldn't even catch my
and
breath.
couldn't swallow it. It was pretty funny to look
Oh
at.
my goodness.
I guess my point is back then it was bullying one-on-one. Now you see all the time kids killing themselves because they can't get away from it because it is all on social media.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot worse now. In my
It is a lot worse. And I think that, back to the point, the social media does create wrath because you don't deal with it at the moment either, right? A person has, and I think that extreme anger, the enemy especially, I'm gonna get a little preachy just for a second, but the enemy will take anything that he can to get a foothold in our mind to cause us to go in a direction we shouldn't go in, right? And so back in the day, you just, you meet after school behind the school and everybody stands in a circle and fight.
Exactly.
Which is still not necessarily the right way to do things,
Right.
and still created a lot of issues back. It's in its own thing. But if we're talking about this social media stuff, the person just sits at home and broods on it, and there was never any resolution to the issue, right? And so
At least with the fight, it was over.
Yeah. See, that's a
Pretty
seed that's going
quickly.
to take root.
yeah, and so then the enemy can be like, can take a hold of that and just cause them to perseverate and just focus on that over and over and over again until something.
Perseverate.
There we go. I made up for that other thing I said earlier that was bad English.
The word of the day.
Separate.
But that's the thing about wrath that's different than anger, though, is it's that anger that builds inside of you to an extreme point where you don't care about the well-being of anyone, right? Like now, I think the difference between regular anger, the best way that I could sum this up, is the difference between just I'm angry, which is a natural emotion, and wrath is accompanied by hatred. Right? And so it's the anger mixed with hatred that now makes it extreme. Whereas I get angry. I've said this 1,000 times. On the way to work in the morning, I get angry Because there's this one spot on the road where nobody knows how to merge. Right? I bring this up all the time.
They speed by you, and then you pass them on the freeway.
Yeah, and they just push themselves in. It's so irritating, and I'm frustrated at that moment. And I'm just like, stupid, just getting like everybody else.
Tailgates them all the way to work.
Your brights on.
Well, no, because my point is by the time I get to work, I've totally forgot about it. Like I was angry, I was frustrated at the situation, but it was over. But what we see is that in different situations with different people, that isn't the case, right? Something happens, and now that anger is attached to hatred. And the problem with that is if I have anger attached to hatred at something else in my life, then the guy who cuts me off or pushes his way in there, now it reattaches to him in that moment. And then I am tailgating him or chasing him down or, following him to the grocery store and then pulling him out of his car and doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's where David's like, yeah.
Go on.
It's like, you just described my last Saturday.
And that's where it's the problem. And it's uncontrollable anger that now causes us to do bad things. And it's controlling us. We can't control it. And I want to go back really fast if I can to the wrath that God has is not wrath attached to hatred. That wrath is probably better looked at as judgment, and which is just and righteous from God, right? Whereas we take that wrath as judgment, and we're not the judge. We don't get to decide what was right and what was wrong. We don't get to decide how someone is supposed to be judged based off of what they did.
But doesn't his word tell us what's right and wrong? So, I mean...
It does, but we're not the judge. He's the judge. So his wrath is righteous, and it's just, and will be carried out the way that it needs to be carried out. Back to the scripture. Vengeance is mine. It's not yours, because I know the whole picture. You don't know the whole picture. And something that when I was doing some research on this, a big part of why wrath is so easy to fall into is because we feel like the entire world revolves around us and our situation, and that person did an injustice to us based off of what we think an injustice is. And really, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal, but in our world, it was a huge deal. He cut me off on the freeway. That's a huge deal. When in the grand scheme of things, it really did nothing. It didn't make me any later to work. It didn't, like there was nothing really bad. It was just irritating.
Yeah.
And that's why we can't be the judge. But that wrath, when we get into that wrath moment, we think we should be the judge. And God says, no, I'm the judge. You don't do that. In fact, there's multiple scriptures that we won't get into now because we're running out of time, but so many things that he says, get rid of the wrath, get rid of the anger, get rid of the bitterness. If you're going to serve me, you can't have those things in you. And so it's important that we don't give into it.
Well, and especially in the case of like your driving instance, it's just not worth it. I mean, there's no positive thing that's going to come out for you by doing that. It's not going to make Christ look well, especially if you have a Jesus fish on the back of your car or something like that, and we're like,
hanging out your window.
It's a Christian that hit me. Okay, all right, well, yeah.
Maybe the guy that cut you off had a bad burrito. He's really got to get home. He's really got to get home now.
He doesn't make it home.
Walk a mile.
We laugh though, but honestly,
we don't know
it very
going on.
well could be that, or he is late for work, or he's running to the hospital because something. I mean, we don't know. We just automatically assume they're a jerk. They did me an injustice. Now I'm angry. And God says, you don't know all of that stuff, so knock it off. Just. Try not to live in that. Again, I get angry, but I don't let that anger control me. And that's the difference between the wrath and anger.
Wasn't there a verse that says be angry, but
sin not?
Sin not,
Yeah. Because God knows we're going to be angry. He didn't set the bar so high that he's like, don't be angry. No, he's
You're
like,
not allowed
okay,
to be angry.
be angry, but don't be stupid with it.
Yeah.
Right.
And you said something earlier talking about wrath that it really applies to, off the top of my head, I think it applies to all of the, again, air quotes, 7 deadly sins, right? I think it applies to all of them. Is that it comes from a place of not caring about people. And this is where, studying about the... Are we done with wrath? I'm sorry. I don't want to cut anybody off if they have anything to say.
We're good.
Good on wrath. Okay. All right.
That was a good segue, though. Like,
so,
boom.
Smooth.
Yeah, I just didn't want to cut anybody off. But thank you.
Well, he said it. I just stole his idea. Like, he stole my idea the other day.
I said smooth.
It was mine. So that leads us into slothfulness. So a lot of people just look at sloth basically is like it's just a lazy person, you know, they're just the couch potato or whatever. Now that might be an instance where a slothful person may be in, but it's not just laziness. It gets to a point where you're so lazy, you are so lazy that you don't care about anybody else around you. You have responsibilities. You're not taking care of those responsibilities. You're neglecting your specific job. So as a father, I'm not a father yet, so I won't speak on that actually. As a husband.
It's like as
a husband.
Something happened that we didn't know about, guys.
Pretty big
Surprise! No, that'll get more people to watch the podcast for sure.
Alexa handled that really well too.
We had a
didn't
little
know.
Easter
We
egg.
had no idea. Like,
so as a husband,
There we go.
I have a particular role that God has put me in. As a husband, I have certain responsibilities. Now, if I
Taking out
neglect
the
those
trash.
responsibilities, that is one of them for sure. Picking up dog poop, also one of the other ones. Not fun, but part of my role. If I neglect that role because of my laziness, that's where it becomes sloth. If I have certain God-given gifts that God has given me so that I can make an impact into somebody else's life, and I selectively choose not to do those things because it's hard.
amen.
I don't want to do that.
Preach it.
That's when I walk into the sloth. It's not just laziness. It's also neglecting your responsibility. And, yeah.
And on that note, that was just good right there.
I was going to connect with that too. All of the things that are listed in the 7 deadly sins, there is so much in the book of Proverbs that talks about all of them.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. My older brother Johnny actually told me this when I was younger. This is who I found out from. I would have found out eventually either way. But there are maximum 31 days in the month. Well, the book of Proverbs has 31 chapters. So if you read one chapter a day for each month, you can do that over and over and over again. The book of Proverbs is from Solomon, who is wisest man in all of history. And I think it's the first 9 chapters specifically are geared towards young people. If you're not in the Word, that is a great place to start. That is a wonderful place to start because you're just reading one chapter.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you have to devote 3 hours a day to it. You can probably read a chapter in less than 10 minutes. And then you can think on it later on. But that is a great place to start as a book of Proverbs because it covers everything we're going to be talking about for the next few episodes too.
When I was getting verses together, I stopped pulling out of Proverbs because I'm like, every single, it's just endless. On
Just be reading the book of Proverbs, and that's the podcast episode.
One thing, I have some stuff that I want to say too, but one thing is it does say, whoever gathers in the summer is a wise son. Whoever sleeps at the harvest time brings shame. And the King James also rewords that in a different way, but basically, you're a bad son. You're a bad kid. You're a bad child of God, or you're not a child of God if you are slothful.
Yeah.
And another thing, I think the reason why these two I like so much is because, like wrath, it's not just being angry. There's a lot that goes into what wrath actually is. And just as you pointed out, slothfulness, the same way, it's not just being lazy. We all have lazy days. Now, the Catholic Church kind of pushes it a little bit more like you should be doing your chores, but you decided to binge watch a show today. You're slothful. Well, no, I was just tired from work.
Yeah.
And took a Saturday off. I'll do this. I'll do the chores later. That's not slothfulness. We all need times of rest. We all need times that we have breaks. We all need times to just kick
That's
our
also
feet up.
biblical, everybody.
Yes, that is true.
You need to rest.
I mean,
to
sometimes
some degree.
I'd take 2 days instead of 1 day. You know,
4 or 5.
that's slothful.
That might be a bit far.
Don't you judge me.
But the thing is it's not just laziness, because we have days where we're lazy, and that's good, and it's all right, and there's not a set cap on how many days you can be lazy. One day, I hope to go on a vacation to a warm place that I can just sit and be warm and not have to worry or do anything. I say this specifically now because
It's really cold in here, yeah.
Freezing.
Yeah.
But and not have to do anything for a week. Just take a week off and not have to my phone, nothing. Just be lazy. That's okay, and sometimes it's healthy. On the slothfulness, back to what you were saying, is when it goes to that next level where you're no longer doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. And on the physical, worldly realm, 1 Timothy, because it's not out of Proverbs,
Nice.
I tried to find one that was not. It says, if anyone doesn't take care of his own relatives, especially his immediate family, he has denied the Christian faith and is worse than an unbeliever. And here he's saying, if you're so lazy that you're not taking care of your family, that you're putting the needs of your relatives aside, you're not actually a Christian. You can say you love Jesus all you want to, but if you don't actually man up or woman up, whatever, and provide for your kids, provide for your relatives, be doing something for them, you're worse than the unbelievers. God does not like slothfulness. So it's that extreme, again, laziness where I'm neglecting the things that are necessary to keep my family fed and clothed and in a home. And I understand certain life situations happen and tragedy takes place. I'm not talking about those where you're working hard and just things aren't working out for you, whatever. Yeah. But it's the laziness to do that. The next thing that kind of goes with what you were saying about denying the gifts or not using the gifts that God used, the slothfulness goes to a whole other level when it's not just I'm being lazy and not doing my chores or not doing my responsibilities. Slothfulness really sets in when you know that you're supposed to be doing good and you see something that you're supposed to be doing that's good, but you don't want to make the effort to do it. Right? So now it's like, I know that I should read my Bible. I know that I should go to church. I know that I should call so-and-so because they're really struggling and I need to encourage them, and I know that. But I'm just too lazy to do it. I just don't want to do it. And now you're neglecting the things that you know are good things because you just don't want to extend the energy or expend the energy to do the good things. And so now that slothfulness is now gone above just the average day-to-day life of providing for our families, but now it's gone to this level of spirituality where I'm not going to do the things that God wants me to do. I'm not going to use the gifts, or even not even if it's not gifts, just I'm not going to encourage someone because it's just too much work for me to get up my phone and talk to them. I don't want to do that. And that becomes a habitual thing. And so slothfulness is habitual laziness that prevents me from...
It could be addictive.
It's very addictive.
Laziness is addictive.
It
and
is
then you'll be sitting on the couch. You're like, oh, I'm so bored. Oh, I feel like garbage.
But I'm not
Get
going
up
to
and
do
do
the
something.
dishes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
CSI is coming on.
In 2 hours.
How'd you know? How'd you know I do that like all the time?
Actually, he does do that all the time. He's like, I'm bored. I'm like,
Go do something.
I don't want to.
I'm just not in the mood to do anything.
He's also a teenager. So
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there. Right now, we just moved into a new house, and so it seems like there's
always
something to do.
Yeah.
Part of my role as a husband, too.
Right? Yeah.
Got to get to work.
But I think all of these have a carnal, physical piece to them, and then they also all have a spiritual piece to them.
Oh, absolutely.
And on this one, it really is, you might just be a lazy person, all right, whatever, but you're still living your life and you're doing your thing. But you might be slothful spiritually, where you're just, the things of God aren't important. The gifts God has given me, they're not important to use. The things that I know that I should be doing for the kingdom, I'm just choosing not to do them. Even if they're simple, I just am not going to do them even if they're simple. And that's a dangerous place because, I mean, it kind of comes back to the talents, right? Where the owner of the property says, I'm going to go on a trip. Here's 10 for you. Here's 5 for you. Here's 1 for you. And the one guy was like, I'm just going to bury mine and leave it alone. And God comes, or the owner of the property. It's God. It's God. But, you know, in the parable, it's the owner of the property.
Yeah.
Comes back and he's angry because you could have just put it in a bank and still been lazy and done something with it. But you chose to just do nothing. And God doesn't appreciate that. And that's where it comes into that dangerous thing where it's just like, I'm not even a Christian because I'm really doing nothing. I say I believe Jesus, but, you know, so do the demons. So, you know.
This is one of the things that I'm going to take a moment to brag on everybody here. This group of guys that's here on camera and off camera, Corey, there is a spiritual move right now that is sweeping our nation. And we have an opportunity right now to reach a lot more people than normal. And this group of guys has been willing to be used in whatever way possible in order to make that happen. So come try our church out. I don't know how to I don't know how to wrap up compliments.
Our church is pretty cool.
Our church is pretty
We'll
cool.
just say thank you. You're pretty cool. You're pretty cool.
Thank you.
You're pretty cool. You're pretty cool.
You're pretty cool.
Everybody go around and tell everybody else that they're pretty cool.
List 5 things you like about each one of us.
Okay, I'm out. I'm not. I can come up with 2, but 5. Jeez.
But-
Being slothful.
I was gonna say.
But I think, I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
None of us are slothful.
No.
If
not at all.
anything, I mean, we were at a meeting today, and this is way off topic, but it's like I have a full-time job, and then I have full-time church, which takes up more time than my full-time job that I have, all this other stuff. But that's all of us. Like, we're all constantly just, working.
A part-time job.
Well, okay, all of us have full-time jobs except for Hayden. But yeah, thanks.
Didn't want to take too much credit. I have a part-time job, so
Well, you're a teenager.
Yeah.
So you can do that.
You can do that.
You can do that.
Yeah, you spend more time in church in a year than a lot of people spend. Like,
in their lifetime.
Lifetime, yeah. Yeah. Well, and again, you're involved in different areas too. It's not like you're just coming to service on Sunday. You're on the worship team. You're helping teach the teens. You're doing all sorts of stuff throughout the week.
I was just talking about my job.
I understand that, but
Fine, you're
What-
slothful. You win.
if that's what
You're
you want to
slothful.
hear.
You win.
You're a disgraceful son.
That's not what I was saying, but
Get out.
Oh my goodness.
So this is uncut, except for this one part where everything he says isn't going to be there anymore. There's going to be just like a Photoshop or something.
We're gonna blur
silhouette,
him
black
out.
silhouette.
Actually.
you'll just hear a voice every
All
now
of a
and
sudden,
then.
that tree is just back, sitting right.
That would be hilarious.
So funny.
Oh my goodness. One of us is out of town. We just put the tree there.
Put the tree there. Yeah. Yes, that's a good idea.
We got to cut it out though, so it doesn't look like pre-thought out.
Oh.
Corey can cut that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just cut that out, Corey.
Yeah.
Cut out in post.
No,
as
Corey
they
doesn't
say.
cut out a lot of things.
Corey, don't cut it out.
Like today, anyways.
Oh my goodness.
Any more thoughts on slothfulness or wrath?
Don't be lazy, guys. Come
Don't
on.
be lazy.
Don't be lazy.
Come on.
It's life is so much more rewarding when you're not. Genuinely.
It is. Actually, Proverbs says that if you don't work for something, you constantly want things. You're never satisfied with what you get.
Yeah.
But when you work for it, then you're satisfied, even though it's not a lot. And it is true. Like you're more content when you're like, you know what? I don't have a mansion, but I have this house, and I worked hard for this house, and I built this house, or whatever it is, and you're like, I feel good about it.
Well, think about the example of a car. If you're lazy and your parents just give you a car, you're not going to appreciate it as much as if you went to a job every single day
And
or
got the
4
money.
days a week, earn the money for it.
He's wrong.
So I was talking with my principal, and I came out of school one day after high school, and there was like a small little scratch on my car, and instantly I was like fuming mad because I paid for my car, not the entire thing, but I paid for a good
Right.
chunk of my car. I was just fuming mad, and I was like, you know what? I'm probably gonna get another scratch on the car sometime because of me.
Someone's going to key it anyways.
It's
Just call it good.
Just get
It's
that
not-
first one out of the way.
I mean, it really was a small scratch, but I was so mad because it was the first one, and in my head, I'm like, you know what? It's not worth it. But I went to my wrestling coach was also the vice principal of the school, and I asked him if there was any cameras on that side of the school to see if we could figure out who did it.
Tracked him down.
He
And
said,
then wrath set in.
He gave him a savage beating.
he said there were no cameras on the side of school, and I was like, you know what? It's not the big of a deal. He said, you know, back in my day, I would have asked every person in the entire school if I worked as hard as you did to get that car. I would have asked every person in the school if they knew who scratched my car, and I would have found out who that person was, and I would have beat them to a pulp. And I'm like, well,
That's the principal. Folks.
that's
Look.
the vice principal.
The vice principal, yeah.
Also the wrestling coach, though, so that makes more sense.
Oh, yeah. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
Wrath is just in there.
Yeah.
That's a given.
He basically just said, you know, times are different, but he was like, you know, if you worked for that car, you'd think differently. I was like, well, coach, I did. I didn't pay for all of it, but I paid for a hefty chunk of that car. It was a big deal, but anyway, Spirit of God on the inside of you, just let things go.
You just let
To
I
a certain
guess
extent. To a certain
to a
extent.
certain extent, but you
Yeah.
have a lot more peace about things when
Oh,
the
yeah.
Spirit is working in you. You have a lot more peace about it's.
Yeah.
Wrath isn't as easy to build up in there.
Mm-hmm.
Slothfulness isn't either, because you just have a desire to be doing things for the kingdom. I don't have a desire to go to work every day, but I love coming to the church stuff. Like I tell people, this is my happy place. I have the worst day of my life and show up just to do this, and I'm like, it's a good day. You know, it's weird how the Spirit really changes those things.
Yeah. You hear that a lot from people, and then you don't see them again for like 2 months, and then they come back and they say the exact same thing. And it's like, man, whenever I'm here,
I should come here more often.
Whenever I'm
Never
here,
see
I
'em
just
again.
feel great. I always leave feeling fantastic, and then you don't see him again for 2 or 3 months, or maybe a year.
That's not me. I'll be here tomorrow.
Yeah, no, he's
I might
here every
skip
day.
Saturday, but then I'll be back on Sunday.
Terrence here every day.
Not every day. I think Corey has me beat. Corey definitely shows up
Probably.
more than I do. Yeah.
For sure. But
He's the MVP.
Shout out to Corey.
Shout out to Corey.
He's got
Shout out
caught
to
up
Corey.
here somewhere. He sleeps.
Yeah. So next week is gluttony and greed.
gluttony and greed.
Yeah. Gluttony
two
and greed.
Gs.
The 2 Gs.
GG.
GG.
Some would say that's a good game, but it's not.
Nope.
So
What?
yeah, that's my kid.
Don't know that?
No, I understand.
We'll
I
talk about
understand.
it later.
I understand.
We'll talk about it later. So yeah,
It's a gaming
push
terminology.
Yeah.
like, push the. What do we say? The like button, the follow button, the
Share,
subscribe button.
share it too.
Share,
Share
yeah.
it too.
Put
If
like
you're
if you
if you're
liked,
watching,
Dislike
and
if you dislike, because
you
that's
think
also
that-
feedback.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true.
It helps the algorithms and
But yeah, share the video too. If you think it helped you, or if you can think of anybody in your life that this might genuinely impact them spiritually too, share this to them.
Do not send it and be like, "I told you you shouldn't be wrathful. Stop getting angry. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't spur wrath by sending this to somebody."
Yeah,
But,
that's a
yeah.
good point.
Yeah, but
That's
no,
a
I
good
think
point.
that you have a good point
Yeah.
on all of these, though. On some of the things we talk about, like
Mhm.
if they're helpful to you or just or you think somebody else, I don't know.
Mhm.
But okay,
And don't forget to smash that like button.
smash it.
subscribe.
That's all, folks.
GG is a good game.
Is that
Yeah.
Is that the end? The end?
Yeah,
Is
no,
that
I
the thing
know.
that I said earlier.
It's Call of Duty.
I-
say you don't know what
That's the
It was a
end.
joke. Yeah. I also played
that's the end.
sports, which we said that in sports all the time.
Yeah.
Good
Did you
game.
really?
Yeah.
Good game.
Especially in golf.
OMG.